Hello, my name is Sherlyn Hernandez, and my speech will focus on athletes that suffer from anxiety and how it impacts them negatively, both emotionally and physically. And I want to clarify how it's under talked about today in society. All you feel is your heart pounding and the enormous pressure building up. The tense feeling of anxiety that athletes suffer from could be impacted by numerous factors. In addition, the immense buildup could lead to negative events and impacts in their lives. I have personally played sports and I have suffered from anxiety, especially when it's the last point to win or lose the game and all your teammates are depending on it. I have felt the pressure of learning how to balance being a student and an athlete. Mental health is overlooked, but it's worse for athletes. There are many more factors that could impact the way their health takes. Anxiety can grow and take a toll on one's life and emotions. There are many more demands for an athlete that could impact the way they respond. For instance, performance pressure is huge in athletes. They suffer from the idea that they mess up, they'll disappoint their coaches, families, and teammates. Primarily in young athletes, they have a higher chance of dealing with anxiety. It comes from the pressure from social media. Nowadays, everything's being posted and everybody has the fear of being judged. Everybody has something to criticize and everybody has something to say. It's easier to leave in its impact since it's always there and it's always a reminder. Another factor will be the pressure of kids that play at a young age. They have the pressure to succeed from their parents and they lead to having a horrible mental health because of the pressure that they impact. Another impact for performance issue will be the way they play, which could lead to a higher chance of physical issues. But instead of getting help and having the time to recover, athletes have a higher chance of saying that they're not injured because they have the fear of falling behind. Another Another way anxiety could impact athletes is having the pressure to perform well both academically and in sports. It's difficult balancing school, however, it's harder when dealing with deadlines and exams. Typically, an athlete requires spending time with long practices and long coaches and traveling, which doesn't give them enough time to study and prepare for those exams. And also having the pressure to maintain a certain GPA in order to play sports, especially in the high school level. It's hard for them to keep their grades at a high GPA and still having enough time to practice and get better without having the fear of falling behind. In both high school and college, it could lead to a huge amount of stress, which could impact them behavior-wise and sleep changes. Anxiety could also increase since student athletes don't have enough time to rest and collect their thoughts, and everything is just overwhelming, which could impact them to eventually burn-out. That leads to my third reason. Mental issues and anxiety could also impact them physically. Mentally, it's draining, but also physically. Athletes have a higher chance of burning out and dealing with high anxiety, which would cause them to lose their confidence and affect them physically. They could deal with the higher increase of heart rate, typically having trouble breathing and a higher tension. This could lead to an increase of causing injuries. But they don't say anything since they fear that if they say something, they'll get pulled out and they won't have enough time to get better. And they won't have enough time to get better, and they won't have enough time. They'll be falling behind, which will lead to making the injury worse. This will cause them to have a higher chance of burning out. Therefore, anxiety has a huge cause in athletes for losing their love for their sports. They have a higher chance of burning out, especially from the pressure and the anxiety. Athletes could also suffer from depression, which could come from the loss of their sport. They feel disconnected and they lose their motivation to improve and get better. Athletes also could suffer from their self-esteem. When it comes to winning or losing against someone that is better, they don't have enough time to collect their thoughts and improve, especially when they're having trouble dealing with both mentally and physically. It could cause them to come in doubt and start to lose their love for the game. Athletes also deal a lot with the fear that they'll be judged if they ask for help. It's the huge stigma around society how if you ask for help, you're not good enough and you won't succeed in your sport. This could get worse. This could turn into worse anxiety, or in the worst case, it could cause to depression and lead to future overall mental issues in athletes, primarily in the young ages. Therefore, I wanted to talk about how mental health in athletes and how it's under talked about, and there are huge effects that could affect them both physically and mentally. I want to bring light into the topic, especially since it's under talked about and people don't understand that athletes deal with so much more than just being good at the sport and getting trophies. That's why I want to talk about the speech. Thank you so much.